All right, so we're gonna talk about simplifying radicals, but notice we have variables in here. So here we have an x, over here we have a y. And so we're gonna talk about how do we simplify it if we have variables in there. Now the simplest way to do this is, first I'm going to explain just kind of what the rule is and then where it comes from. But if I have an even number here, so notice it's to the 6th power, so that's an even number. If I'm going to take the square root of that, I just take that number and divide it by 2. So 6 divided by 2 is 3. So the square root of x to the 6th is x to the 3rd power. And that makes sense because x to the 3rd power times x to the 3rd power is x to the 6th power. Because remember, if we multiply with the same base, we just add the exponents, which gives me 6. So remember what square root means. Square root of something means what times itself gives me x to the 6th. Well, that would be x to the 3rd times x to the 3rd. Okay, and then so that's if I have an even exponent. So just to give you another example, it would be, let's say, square root of x to the 10th power. Again, we just take 10 and divide it by 2. So the square root of x to the 10th would be x to the 5th. Okay, so that's simple enough, you just divide it by 2. But what if we don't have an even number? So here we have y to the 9th power. Okay, the way I think about this is we're just going to say that that's the same thing as y to the 8th times y. Because think about it, if I was to multiply y to the 8th times y to the 1st, that's y to the 9th. Okay, so it's the same thing. Okay, and so remember what we just said over here. If I have an even, so notice that 8 is even. If I have an even exponent, well, that's just divided by 2 and I get y to the 4th. And then because I can't do anything with this y to the 1st, I just leave it underneath the square root. So one way to think about this is when I have an odd number, I just subtract 1 to get the 8, and then the square root of that would be y to the 4th, and then have a y left in because of that odd number. So that's one way to look at it. Now if I want to actually talk about how do we do this in regards to where does that come from, I'm going to erase this real quick and kind of go through it. So when we talked about finding the square root with numbers, we said factor it out. So let's imagine I wanted to factor out x to the 6th. Okay, for some reason it's not working here. Oh, because I still had it on eraser. Okay, so if you remember, x to the 6th just means x times x times x times x times x times x. Okay, and also if you remember, when we're factoring, or sorry, when we're taking a square root, we find pairings. So we have a pairing here, a pairing here, and a pairing here. So if you remember when we had numbers, we would factor it until we couldn't factor it anymore and then find pairings. Well, this pairing here means I have an x on the outside. This pairing here means I have an x on the outside. And remember, we multiply them when they come out. And this pairing here means I have an x on the outside, which would reduce to x to the 3rd power. So again, I could have just divided the 6 by 2, but just to kind of show you where that comes from here. Now let's do the same thing with y to the 9th power. Okay, so I'm going to rewrite this because I kind of messed it up there. Square root of y to the 9th. Okay, so let's write that out as the square roots, and I'm going to have 9 y's. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to find some groupings. Let's use this nice color here. So I have a pair of y's here. I have a pair of y's here. I have a pair of y's here. And I have a pair of y's here. But notice I have one y left over. So I am going to bring out all 4 pairs of these y's. So it'd be y times y times y times y on the outside. But I'm going to have that y left inside. And so we know y times y times y times y is y to the 4th. And I'm just going to have that y left inside. Okay. So again, the easiest way to think about it is anytime I have an odd number, I'm always going to have one y left inside. Whenever I have an even exponent, I'm always going to get a simple answer without a square root. If you have any more questions, or if you'd like to have me do more examples, please let me know, and I would love to do so. Have a good day.